Okay, who is recording now? Steven, are you the one?
I'm the one recording.
Oh, awesome. Please proceed.
Okay, so good morning, everybody. I hope you had a good time yesterday.
Yes, morning.
Okay, that's good. So, I'm going to do a quick recap on functions, then we'll continue from where we ended yesterday. Is that cool?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I'm sure we should. All right. So yesterday, we touched on functions and we learned that functions are a block of code that focuses on a particular or a specific feature or task. That is what we talked about yesterday. And we spoke about the arguments that you can pass into a function. You can choose to run your function without an argument. You can choose to run your function with an argument. And we also spoke about defining the specific type of your argument. If you want the argument you're passing into your function to be a string or an integer, that is also something that you do. And what output type you want your function to be in. So if you want your function to return a string, if you want your function to return um, a list, a dictionary, or an integer, that is also up to you, the developer. I don't know if I touched on return, but I'm going to touch on that today. And I will touch on arbitrary function arguments to in Python functions. Then we will have like a much more robust understanding of functions in Python. So I'm going to continue from where we stopped yesterday, which is arbitrary arguments. So yesterday we learned. Did someone say anything? Any questions? Are we on the same page? Hello?
Yes, Steven, we are.
Okay, so I can continue.
Yes.
Okay, so yesterday we learned that functions from what we learned yesterday, the functions we create take a specific input count. So if I create my function and I give it first name and last name, we know that no matter where or wherever you call this function, you need to provide these two parameters, these two positional parameters. So that is what we learned yesterday. If there's no argument, you call your function without an argument. If there is an argument, you provide that X number of arguments. The only time you can run your function without necessarily respecting the argument is when there's a keyword argument function where you have the parameters defined already in the function. So like this example here that we went through. But with this part, arbitrary arguments, you are not limited by the number of inputs. So if I create a function with this asterisk in front of my parameter, I'm basically telling Python that, okay, I'm creating a function and I want to have a tuple as my parameter, and I want to be able to iterate through this tuple. So if you create, like if you call this function and you pass your parameters in, Python will identify the input as a tuple, and it will give you the opportunity to loop through it. It will give you that access to be able to loop through the elements that you have provided. So in this example, I wrote a function to find the sum of numbers that the user inputs into the function when you call it. So over here, after I initiated a parameter, I initiated a variable called results, and I loop through the inputs, which is the numbers. So for num in numbers, add that to results. We already went through another way of rewriting this. I will not touch on it because I understand that we all understand that. So I'll just jump over. Then I printed the value of sum and I printed the type of numbers so that you'll be able to see what actually is the type of the parameter that we are putting. So if I run this, you realize that it says the type is a tuple and the sum of 1, 2, 3 is 6. So with this, Python treats your inputs in this form. This is how it's treated. This is how a tuple is initialized in Python. So this is how your functions, your inputs are treated when you are using arbitrary arguments in Python creation. Do you want me to go over this or is it clear?
Please go over it. Please go over it.
Please go over it.
Okay, I'll do that again. In Python, there's a type called tuple, right? To initialize a tuple, you just need parentheses. So this and anything you put into it is like the elements of your tuple. So using the example from the top, this is a tuple that has been initialized. Now, just like a list, a tuple can be treated in the same way. Okay, so let's say if I want to get the element 1 or the element 2 and 3, I can use indexing to get that information. So v index 0 should give me 1. If I want to know what is for 2, I just do index 1 and to give me 2. So that is how it works. So with tuple, you can actually iterate through. So when we did for loops, we looked at how you can loop through an element or a list. So this is an example of how you can do that. So this is the privilege you get when you use tuple. Now with arbitrary arguments, this usually the conventional name for this is the args. This is what is usually used. And over here, you can use any variables depending on your preference, of course. But then conventionally, this is what we tend to use. But in this function, I use numbers. So over here, I created a tuple called numbers, and I gave it the opportunity. I asked the Python compiler to allow me to loop through this tuple that I am passing into my function. Now, with this approach, you are not limited to the number of inputs. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It won't matter because at the end of the day, all of this will be treated as 1, which is an open parenthesis 1, 2, 3, a close, which is 1. Do you understand? So in there, it's like you are passing in a list, but you are actually passing in 1 parameter. Is that clear? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's clear. So now you have passed in an iteratable variable into the function, and you have looped through that number to get all the elements in there, and you are adding up to result as you read through the elements. So now the first one will be the first element after it runs the loop. The second time it runs, it goes to the second element and it keeps adding them to results in that order. Then once you are done, it prints out your final results and you're done. So I just put this here so that you see the type that we are working with. So that's what non-keyword arbitrary argument does. So this is non-keyword arbitrary argument. You can also mix a positional argument with a non-keyword arbitrary argument. So in this example, you can see that I have an X here and I have my arbitrary argument over here. So with this, I am printing, you can pass your function like this and it should work fine. Because Python can easily tell that the first one will go to my X and the rest will go into args. So that's what is happening here. So I print that statement and it tells me x equals 2 and numbers is equal to 3, 4, 5. So even if I add 6, I will just add 6 to x. So that's how this works. So you can work with the different parameters in there. You can even add your own. You can even add a keyword variable in there, and with this, you can even print y. Let's hope this works. And Python is able to, sorry. Why is it doing? Oh yeah, with this, Python is able to tell that, okay, the first is for x, the second is for y, and the rest is for x. Now, the reason I will not advise that we go with this approach is because usually when you are going with the keyword argument approach, you are basically telling the Python compiler that I'm creating a function and I want this parameter to be optional. Do you understand? So if you say, I want this parameter to be optional, and you call something like this, and maybe this 3 is supposed to be part of x, Python will not be able to tell that, because with Python, it's x for the first, y for the second, the rest is for x. That's how Python will understand it. And if I come and say y, sorry, and I can't come and say y equals something, unless maybe I already have information on what is already in y, then I can tell Python that, okay, y is equal to 4. Then it can run everything else without giving me an issue. Or the error. Interesting. Okay, well, I'll look into this and get back to you. But yeah, whenever you want to go with this approach, usually this should come after x. So this is how it's supposed to be. So this way, Python will treat your first element as y. It treats everything in the middle as x, and then your keyword can come after. So usually put keyword argument at the end. So when you are doing a positional argument, it can be in front. When you have a non-keyword argument with a keyword argument, you make sure the non-keyword argument comes before the keyword argument. So that was the error we got. So in cases where you want to define that, okay, Python, I want to have something like this, then you do it that way. I'm thinking if I don't define y and I run it, Python will still be able to tell that y is equal to 4. So that is how it's going to work. Does it make sense? Should I go
Well, no, I've got 2 things for you. So
okay.
I was expecting that number 1, the line 3, the third line of the code,
Yeah.
after print that f, yes, it would have been y. Okay, great. Then the outcome of when you call the function find underscore now,
Yeah.
the result, I was hoping to have seen, based on how we define the function, to have seen 2. Then apart from 2, then we see the 3.
It should be like this. This is what you asked for.
Yes, but again, why then colon 4? I thought that it would be captured in the numbers.
Okay, good. So do you remember?
And then 2 also will be captured because 2 also belongs to x, right?
Yes, 2 belongs to x.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
okay. So let me touch on keyword arguments. With keyword arguments, right, we understood, we learned that you can call your function and define the variables in the, we can you can create a function and define your values, like the values of your parameters. So as you can see over here, a equals 7 and b equals 8. So if I run this function, Python already understands that the value of A is 7 and the value of B is 8. So that parameter does not change. It will work with 7 and 8 until you call your function and define that, okay, I want my A to be 2 and I want my B to be 3. It is only at that point that Python will change the values of A and B. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yes.
So the same logic applies here. Until you tell Python that the value of y is something else, Python will always see y to be 4. So in this call, x is going to be the first, all right, because x is just one positional argument. So Python will automatically assign the very first input to x. Then it will assign the rest of the input to args, since args can take an unlimited input number. Okay. Then if you want to change the value for your y, you can't just add a number saying that Python should understand that this number is for y. Python will still treat it as a value for args, as you can see. My highlight is still on this args over here. So Python will still treat every new input as part of args, because y is a keyword positional argument. If you want to change the value of y, you would have to define y and say, okay, now I want my y to be 6. That is when the highlights changes from args to y. This way, now Python can tell that 2 goes to x, everything else here goes to args, and y goes to y. So if I print this, you see that the results changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Are we on the same page? Or is it too deep? I can go over if it's not clear.
It's okay.
All right. Okay. So then we also have this case. This also uses the same logic. If you want to change y, just like we did here, you have to define y. You have to be specific that y is equal to something. So you can see that when I did all of this without specifying that y equals something, it gives me an error saying that there's one missing argument. Do you understand? So that is why you have to always define. It's either you are doing this or you are putting y in front. And then Python will know that, okay, the first 2 goes to x and y, the rest goes to args. Then that would make sense to Python. Do you understand? So that's how it works. So you need to be particular about how you do how you work with arbitrary arguments. Because with arbitrary arguments, if you don't properly define the positions of your parameters, Python might take in the wrong inputs for the variables that you've defined, and the scripts or the code or the function might not work the way you want it to work. So you have to take all of that into consideration. Then there's another, okay, I've touched on this. So this is how to solve it. You define y. You can also make your life easy by defining the parameter x and come and define y. And you know you are safe. Everything else can happen the way it wants to happen, and you don't really mind. And when you are doing this, always put it after your args. So you finish defining your args and you come and define x and y. Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Let me show you. Let me run it. So if I run this, it will give me an error. But if I move x and y to the end, Python multiple. Yeah, it's not going to work the way I thought it would.
Should there be a space after that?
So x equals 2, y equals oh, interesting. Assuming all of this is moved to the end, what happens then? This should wait. Okay, so in cases where you want to add multiple parameters, positional parameters, and define them in your function, I would advise you put them after your args so that you don't get the error that we got earlier on. I hope that makes sense. So these will just be rules that can guide you. Sometimes when you get an error, you just need to go through the error message and move things around according to what the error message says. So that is how to work around this particular error message.
Stephen,
Yes.
quick one. So, where you call the function, the last input, the y is equal to 3, there's a comma there.
Yeah.
And yet it's still run.
Yeah, that it won't matter. There's nothing that comes after y in the function. So the Python compiler will not ask you what is going on there. But yes, thank you for noticing that and for us to take it out. So if you want to call your function without this approach, you can put your x and y before args. But if you're using this approach, x and y comes after args. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's another arbitrary term called KW and this is more of keyword arguments. So args alone is non-keyword arbitrary arguments, but this one is keyword arbitrary argument. And args is a tuple, but KW args is a dictionary. And as you can see, to initiate this, you have to use 2 asterisks. And this is representing the mapping between the keywords and the values. So if you want to initialize or if you want to run this function, you have to pass in a parameter. Also, if you pass in an empty function, it will work all right, except you get an empty dictionary. And if you pass in into the function values, it will work with it accordingly. So know that the very first here word here is representing your keyword. That will be the key in your dictionary. And this is representing the value that is being assigned to that particular dictionary. The same goes for this. So you can add as many keyword value combo into this function and you won't have a problem. You are not limited by it. So if you run this code, you realize that it says that this type is a dictionary. The first one gives you an empty dictionary, and the second one gives you a dictionary where F name is your key and Stephen is your value. So that's how this works. You can have a function where you put args and KW args together. The only trick here is args has to always be last. That is the only rule for this one. So in cases like this, you can just have your X positional statement, args can come, then KW args will come after that. So that is a rule for KW args. When I read into it, that's what it said. So with this, if you run the function, Python is able to tell that X is equal to 100 as we have defined here. It's able to tell that everything that comes after X goes into args, as in like every individual input that comes after X goes into args, and every keyword combo that comes after that goes into keyword arguments. So you can see that over here I said F names for Stephen, L name because of Usu, and it knew that this is supposed to go into the dictionary, and this goes into the tuple, and this goes into the expositional argument. So there are like some rules that are guiding how the Python compiler executes certain lines of code. So by knowing those rules, you are able to properly get a working function or a working code. You would see that over here I did args index 0 and args index 1. I want someone to tell me why this worked or why this is the case. Sorry, why this worked, and to be sure that we are all on the same page as to what a tuple is, what a dictionary is, and what arbitrary functions are. So anybody at all can give me what you think about why this worked and why it gave you exactly 10 and 20.
Okay,
Hello?
so
Oh,
okay, go ahead.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm just giving it a try. So I'm looking at the fact that since x is the arbitrary function, since x is 100, so it goes on with the other numbers with the indexing of 10 being 0 and 20 being 1. That's how come when you index 0 and 1, it came as 10 and 0 with the
Okay.
argument.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else?
So,
this,
oh, go ahead, Mohammed. Go ahead. Sorry.
okay, sir, in this function, the arbitrary x is taking x is the argument of the function arbitrary, and x is taking the value of 100.
Yeah.
And after that, we have put it the arguments which will be taking the first value 10 as which has index 0.
Yeah.
So the index of the args 0 is 10. So that's why it is taking the value of 10. And the second index is the second value is on index 1, which is 20.
Yeah.
That's why it's the double static KW arguments are used for a dictionary. So that's why as we see in the line 9, the F name is Stefan is an dictionary. That's why we have put it the key on the sixth line. K
Yeah.
arguments F name is we want to print the value of key. So that's why we put it the F name, and it prints the value of Stephens.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the last line, as you see, the K words, KW arguments, last name printing the value of Owoso.
Yes.
That's
Perfect.
what.
Yes. Isaac, please, you had something to say too.
Oh, so I was also just about saying the same thing. Based on how we have defined this function arbitrary comes with the normal argument and then the arbitrary argument plus a keyword argument. And from what we are seeing in the 100 basically goes to the x. And then where we are seeing, for example, now you have added 30.
Yeah.
You're seeing 10, 20, and 30 arguments handle the arbitrary argument handles tuples test. And for such, they are stored in memory. And how they are stored in memory, they are stored per the index in memory, such that the very first value or input normally goes to the 0 index, and the rest of it follows. So where we are seeing 10, 20, and then 30, for example, if now you should add another print to the last, another print before the age. So exactly, and that should turn to 0, 1, 2. That should be 2.
Okay.
The argument. So if that becomes 2, of course, we are going to have these. And that is because memory, it picks it from the index 0.
Yeah.
So we are seeing things, but it count it from 0, 1, 2, which
Yeah.
still covers it.
Okay.
And then the keywords also follows, just as Mohammed and then my brother also explained.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You are all right. That is exactly what is happening. I'm excited.
Steven,
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I want to ask where we define the 100, 10, 0, 10, 20, 30.
Yeah.
Should we add, let's say 40, 50, but without defining it in the function? Would they still run it?
What do you want 40 and 50 to be? Do you want 40?
Like where the Kaizen is currently.
Yeah, I should put it there.
Yeah, I'm just assuming you have 40, 50, but without defining it in the
Yes.
yeah, without you defining it and you run it, would they still add it to
Okay, so if I run this, no. It
all
will,
right.
it won't print anything, but then 40 and 50 has been taken into consideration. Assuming I'm to print just X. Yeah, this will give me everything that is in that tuple. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You see all of them here.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you remember the explanation Mohammed, Isaac, and I'm not sure the first person that spoke said, we used something called indexing to get the individual elements in this X tuple. And to do that, you always have to know that the first element starts from 0. So that's why we have X 0 over here giving us 10. We have 1 giving us 20. We have 2 giving us 30. So if we want to print 40 and 50 separately, we can add 3 and 4 and it will do that for us.
Okay.
So that's what happens when you have tuple sets and lists. You can easily use this type of indexing to get what you want. Do you understand?
Okay.
Like
All right.
Yes, good. So that is what is happening here. So you can add 60, 70, 80. It will all be kept inside X. But if you have like a different positional argument, then you can add maybe a new parameter, maybe X, Y, then X and KWX can come after that.
All right. Okay.
Cool.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes,
If
please.
if in the calling arbitrary in the calling function if we put a list after 50, where it will go? Will it go to arbitrary arguments or?
Let's see what will happen. That's a good question. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
You understand? So the good thing about tuples is you are not limited to the type of data that you store in there. So even if I add a string to this me and I run it, it will just be added to X. So basically think of it as a container, a memory location where every new information that you have is just dropped in there. Do you understand? Oh, okay, it was a mistake. Okay, cool. Okay, so can I move on or we have more questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Please.
So I'm wondering, after running, why did the keywords appear, then the names, like the name comes at age Steven, and then age also.
Okay.
Like how the ads popped up.
Okay. Let me show you something. That is dictionary's unique way of calling the elements within. So like I said before, with dictionaries, right, there's a key and there's a value. Now, if I need to know the value of this particular key, I need to initiate that key or I need to call that key. So in lists a tuples in sets, you can just use indexing to say,
Okay.
okay, what is the value in 0? And it will give you what is in 0. You can think of 0 as the key in the case of dictionaries, right? So
Okay.
instead of saying 0 here, you just put this key there, and dictionary will understand that, okay, you want the value that is stored in this particular key. You want the value that is stored in F name. You want the value that is stored in L name. So that is what is happening here. So if I print this statement, you see that this is what is being stored in KWArgs, okay? And if I want to get what value is stored in F name, I need to, in quotes, index that value, which is F name. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is what is happening here. So
Well,
it's not supposed to be age. Name. So with this, I'm saying that my first name is Steven, which has been provided here, and the last name is Owusu. Now, the thing about KW Args is you need to have some kind of documentation or doc string, basically a comment, to let the user know like what parameters you are working with in this particular function. So example, if you have a student management system, then you can define like the keys for that particular function. Because if you are working with it, you need to know the keys you are working with. Because if the user is to call the function with, let's say, any random name like equals something like this, Python will still understand this as part of the parameters that you are working with in your function, and that can break the code. So you need to create a controlled environment where you can get your user to interact with the function exactly how it's supposed to be. So like I said before, a student management system, I know that, okay, student management system, I'll work with grades, I'll work with the first name of the student, the second name of the student. So instead of something like this, I can have grades. Yeah. And why? I can have grades, and in my function, let me see, right? And in my function, I can say, or maybe I can put a condition that if the grade is greater than 90, then student first name, second name has passed the class. That is how the script is going to work. So if you call the function and you pass in first name, second name, and the grade you got, the function can tell you that, okay, this person has passed the class, this person has failed the class. That is how you've created a controlled environment to make your args and your KW args to work. Does it make sense?
yeah, it does.
Okay. And with this, you can also make it such that you can add a lot of maybe student management related topics to like the function. So besides the name, the grade, maybe you want to add the age, maybe you want to add. So it's all up to you how you want to make it work. So if you add the age, then maybe your function can check, okay, if there is age, do this for me. If there is this, do that for me. If this is the teacher's name, do that for me. So that is how you can make it work for you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we go into return statements. So if you look at all the examples I've used at the top here, all I did was print. But if you run this function, it ends there. It prints and it ends there. So whatever value you get, it ends with the print statement, and that's just all. But then there's something called return statement. And what the return statement does is whatever value you get in your function, if you return that value, you can reuse that value down your code. So there are cases where you can have a function, create another function, return the value of the function in the first, return the value in the first function, and call the first function in the second function to use that value to maybe implement a more elaborate solution in the second function, and that will work out for you. You can maybe, let's say, okay, so let's go through this example and I can help you understand it a bit more. So over here, I'm taking a number, right? Let's say I pass in 3. It gives me the square of 3. So 3 times 3, and that will give me 9, right? 9 will be saved inside square. So that is what's happening. If I don't return, 9 can never be saved inside square because there's no value that is being returned to be saved into square. So with this, your output will be none. Do you understand? So let me show you. If I'm to print this right now, I get a 9. But if I to remove this and print, it will give me none. Does it make sense? Yeah. So with functions, if you want to retain the value or the result you are getting inside your function, you would have to return it. Now, you need to understand that you can only return one at a time. You can only return one data type at a time. So if you have multiple information, you want to return all of them, that is when you have to make good use of the other types. So maybe you can use a tuple to control the environment. Then you have again a comment to tell you that, okay, the first element in a tuple is representing name, the second element is representing age. So with that, if you are working with it, you can easily assign, say maybe you can do name age equals this, and the value of name and age will be printed for you. So that's how it works. So you need to have a
Steven,
yes.
sorry, I'm reading the chats, and I think Gabriel said he thought Python supports multiple type definition in a function.
I don't get the question.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Yeah, Gabriel, can you please elaborate? Hello?
I think maybe his network is bad, that's why he typed. But he said, I thought Python supports multiple type definitions in a function. Yeah, it does, but I don't really get. I don't understand. I don't know where.
Yeah,
I know what you
yeah,
said.
yes.
Forget.
If
Yeah, that was.
if you are creating your function, right, you can use any data type to work with your function. But when you are returning, the current versions of Python will not allow you to, maybe let's say I have right. The current version of Python will not let you do something like this. It will give you an error. Oh no, it's treating it as a tuple. It will treat it as a tuple. It won't give you the opportunity to return them as like separate values. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to do. Also, okay, let me do it this way. So return results and return y. This won't work because the moment you introduce return, the Python interpreter will understand okay, even if the value to be returned is an object, it won't matter. It won't matter at all. It won't matter the type of data you are returning. It can be a list, it can be an object, it can, whatever data type it is that you are returning, it can be any. But you can't have multiple return statements. Oh, sorry. You can't have multiple return statements because in Python, the moment you put a return something, the compiler will understand it as that is the end of your function. So when it runs and it gets to line 6, that is the end. Line 7 will never be executed. So if you can see that there is a dark shade on the line 7, that means this line of code will never see, code is unreachable. This line of code will never be touched because in Python, this is where it ends. So if you want to like print multiple values, that is where you need to make use of something like a tuple to save all your inputs in there and maybe have something defining it that this and this and that, and you move on from there to access the information according like the way I did over here. Any
Sir,
question?
if you want to return multiple values from the return statement, then if sir just like put comma after the result return result,
Yeah, that
then
would treat it
sir
as a
why
tuple.
if you want to, sir, then you will need to put to require you will require to make two variable for the function. Sir,
Yeah.
come to the line 10.
Yeah. Line 10, yes.
Oh, I think I think what's
Square,
this?
sir, after put comma after square, very after initial when you initialize the come to line 10.
Line 10, yes.
Yes, sir, and put comma after the variable square.
Yeah,
Not here, sir. Variable where you initialize the variable square.
yes. So,
That is the calling function.
oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. You mean here? Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
here, yes, sir. If you name it another anything you want to here,
Anything.
yes, sir. Yes, anything. Now it will not return a tuple. It will return a separate values if you.
Yes, 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 yes. That's what will happen. So it
Yeah,
will.
but I think he has given clarity on what he
Yes.
was talking
So
about.
yes.
He
So
meant, like, for example, if you want to return a dictionary
I'm
or
going to.
something.
Yes, I'm going
Yeah.
to.
Oh,
I'm going to
okay.
show you exactly that right now. So instead of returning results, we'll return your. Oh, what's going on here? Just put it in environment. Yeah. Okay, I think I know why. Okay. Forward. All right. If you have something like this, yeah, and you print it, this is what you get. Yeah, bro. So it does not matter the data type as long as it is supported by Python and return it. Because to Python, you still want to reuse this particular information. So this this dictionary you just give us, you want to reuse it somewhere in a different function or in the main script of your code that, okay, this is the value maybe I want to print, or this is the value I want to use, this and that. You can return it. The only thing you can't do is to have multiple return statements. That's the you can't have multiple return statements. But then you can have maybe multiple parameters returned in one return statement, except that Python will treat it as a tuple. And you may have to define that, okay, I need this data to be, sorry, the first element is representing this, the second element is representing that. Then whoever is working with it can easily work with it in that manner. But most of the time, when you go with that approach, you are trying to build like a big system, and that function with a tuple return statement might not be something that the user will interact with. It will be something that you will be using internally in another function of yours. So you, the developer, would not have to have any problem. Okay, we have an example from Mohammed. We are going to try that right now and see what we'll get. Yeah, are we on the same page? So, Mohammed, you want to take us through this, what is happening here? And if we have questions, we'll ask you. Hello, Mohammed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here I'm. Sir, run this code, then you will understand what I'm trying to say. Uh, yes, sir. Here you say that you saw that it doesn't return the tuple value. It is returning the integer value.
Yeah, yeah.
So it means, sir, we can return multiple values from a function.
Okay, okay. I get what you're saying, but if you call the return, sorry, if you call the function in this format, Python will be able to separate it in that order because it's automatically. Let me show you something. If you have it in this format, automatically Python will treat the return statement as a tuple. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. It will return it.
Exactly. Like when you are trying to access the data, right, and you specify, so as I showed here, name and age. If you specify that, okay, you know that there are two informations that is being returned by your function, right? And you know that the first one is representing the first result and the second one is representing the second result. You can actually call your function in that order and it will give you the return value separately to populate the separate variables that you are assigning to it. Do you understand? So if you remember, initially when we were handling variables, we did multiple initiation with one line of code where we had A, comma, B, comma, C equals 1, comma, 2, comma, 3. And A was assigned to 1, B was assigned to 2, and C was assigned to 3. This is just an example, but this we touched on this in the beginning when we're doing variables. That is exactly what is happening here. So if you call results 1 and results 2 equals the function, Python will automatically break down your return statement into the separate variables for you because it understands it. Do you understand? So that is actually what is going on. Are we on the same page? Yes, yes. And it will also be shared with everybody, so you all have access to it. All right, so if we don't have any questions, we can move on to Python libraries and Python models. So these two are actually similar. They're probably the same. But before I go there, I can talk about the benefits of using a function. So why do you need a function? Why do you have to always use a function? Or not always, but why do you have to use functions in certain cases? The first is code reusability. So if you have this add sub function, you can always use add sub function. You just have to call add sub and pass in your parameters. You don't have to always do x plus y. Your function will handle that for you. So that helps you to reuse your code however you want. So maybe I have a function for reading a file. I can use that function to read multiple files every time. I can run a loop to go through all the files I have in my directory and read each of the files in that directory. So this helps you, functions help you to reduce multiple or repetitive lines of code. So that is one positive advantage of functions, of course. And the second is readability. If you write your code where, let's say, it's just only this. No, sorry, you can't return a function. It's only this, and you have about 1,000 of that, maybe 100 plus lines of code. It will be hard for you to separate them that, okay, this is for this is for that. I mean, fine, you would have comments in there to help you, but if you run the script, it will print out everything unless maybe you comment them out. It makes reading your code very hard. So if you're able to define functions, and like I mentioned earlier when I touched on function, let the function explain what it's doing. So if you are doing addition, let the function say, I'm doing addition. If you are doing subtraction, let the function say, I'm doing subtraction. If you are deleting, let the function say, I'm deleting. So that one, when you go through or when you read the name of the function, you know that, okay, this function I have created is doing this job. This function is doing that job. So you know that, okay, that is all that this function is focusing on. It's not doing anything. Okay, this function is doing this job. It's returning this for me. I can use this function because that's what I need. That is how it works. So that's some of the benefits of using functions. These are the two main benefits of using functions. Do you have any questions? We can move on and touch on libraries. Are we all good? Hello.
Yeah, we are good.
Okay. So the next part is Python library functions. Now, just like the way we've touched functions and we understand how functions work, there are people that or developers that have sat down and created a lot of functions into one file and has provided it to us as models we can import and use. So they are also libraries. So there's a file called math. If we go into this file, you see that this is something that someone has actually written for you, and you can call as you see fit. So they also made use of other libraries or models that has been written by another person. And in here, when I import math, I get access to every function that has been created inside math. So you can see what did I use? I used this. This is what I used inside math. Yeah. So you can see that there is a function here called that. Able to see what is in there. Interesting. But yes, there's a function in there called sqrt, and this is used for square, and it's supposed to return a float to you. That is the return statement is working on. So you know that okay, someone has already done that for me. You import your math. I want to use that particular function. You can go math dot, then you call the function. You can if you have IntelliSense enabled, you are able to see like the other functions that have been created by or the other functions that are available in this particular library, and you can use them accordingly. Okay. Another way you can also import is maybe import math as m. When you do this, this is no longer valid. You would have to use m. The moment you use m, Python will understand that m is pointing to math, and anything that is available in math, you would have access to. And there's also another line where you say from math imports this. When you do this line of code, you don't need to tell Python that okay, the things I'm trying to access is inside math. Python will be able to load all the functions that are inside math into your program. So the moment you call sqrt, Python can automatically tell that, okay, this is what this function is supposed to do. So whatever parameter you pass into it, Python will work with it as it has been initiated. Any question?
We'll see.
Can you repeat the third one? The third one, the one is just from math import.
Yes.
If you can repeat that.
Okay, so when you do from math import asterisk, this is a wildcard, right? So the moment you say from math import asterisk, you are telling the Python compiler that import everything, every method, every function that is in math for me. I want to work with all of them. That's what you're telling the Python compiler. So it won't matter. So you can have, let's say, I saw one called floor. Floor is a function that is inside math. So when I just call floor, I can work with it and I won't get an error. Okay. But if I use import math here, this will give me an error because Python can't tell what sqrt is unless I say, okay, sqrt is sitting inside math. That is when Python is able to tell, okay, this function that you're looking for is inside the math library. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
And there are cases where, so usually, well, me personally, I don't like to use this line of code because I feel like memory-wise, it will dump a lot of information that I don't need in my code. So if I'm working with math and I just want to use this, I'll say from math import sqrt, and I have access to only that. Only that. So if I call floor, it will give me an error because Python doesn't know what floor is. Okay, so in my program, I'm only making use of sqrt, and that is all. So that is like the only heavy load that's like heavy external load that I'm putting in my program. So I tend to do this when I'm working. So this is personal experience, something I like to do. And I've observed that most of the time it's helpful. It's lightweight and it's very helpful. So it's an approach you can also adapt. So you can add as many as you want. But if you feel like you're going to use a lot of it, then it is best to just import everything and just work with all of that. There's also the case, the reason why I did a separate Python models is with is because I wanted to like make it look different, because there are the case where you can build the libraries yourself. So that is the project we are going to be working on. The case where you build the libraries yourself. So you can create you can create a Python file. Let's see. I need a name. Right, and in this file you can create your methods, your functions, add take your first number and your second number and return to me A plus B. This is what I am asking. This is the function I have created in my file. If I want to use this, if I want to use that function, I can import examples here. And in my code, I can say example.add. And I can do 1 plus 4. And the code will work exactly how it's supposed to. So this particular program would be dependent on every function I create inside this library, and you can use it accordingly. So that is why I separated the Python models from the libraries, but it's actually the same thing. So I was trying to treat libraries as the external libraries or external packages that you install to use in your programs, and I was treating models as ones that you create on your own. So that's why I separated, but technically it's the same thing. So this first project is us building a program. We are creating a file called matlab.py. We create a function, add, subtract, division, and multiplication. Then we'll create another file called main.py where we import MATLAB and we use the functions in MATLAB accordingly. So that is the task I wanted us to do to help us understand functions. Everything we've learned so far, we are making use of arbitrary functions, everything. Because in here, I said add up all variables. So you'll be calling a function that will take 4 or 5 parameters. And I don't want you to create 4 or 5 parameters. I want you to use an arbitrary argument in there. Then we'll do subtraction, where we'll subtract C and D from the results we get from the addition. And we'll do multiplication, where we multiply B by the results we get from the subtraction. And we'll divide we'll divide the results we get from the multiplication by A. So that is the task. That's what we are doing. But before we go into it, I'm very sorry I didn't ask how many people have been able to set up their Python, how many people are having challenges, all of that. If we can go through that real quick. We can help those who don't have the Python set up, and we can all try our hands on this based on the understanding that we have. Is that cool? Are we all good with that?
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
Yes, so we can do that quickly. Those who already have it set up, you can start working on it. We'll do a quick 20 minutes, then we'll take a break. Or we can take a break now so that those who don't have their setup can work on that. Then when we come back from the break, the 10 minutes break, we will continue with the task. And from there, we should try and finish everything by 11:40 so that we can jump to the next topic.
Okay.
Are we all good?
Yeah. I think I'll need help with installing my setup or getting my interface ready.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing my screen for now so that whoever challenge can share their screen. And after we finish Python, we will jump straight to object-oriented. The different data types, I think we are going to learn them real time as we work. So if we need a list and want to maybe add more information to the list, we will do that because we don't have enough time. We are running out of time. It's taking longer than expected. So I will share the data types with you and maybe learning materials that we can use to do our own side learning. They are just a lot of methods, but I have explained the general concepts and lists, tuple sets, dictionaries. There's the string, then there's numbers. we've gone through all of that, so we all have a good idea of the basics of all of these, but we don't know like the in-depth method. Like in strings, you can replace, you can strip, you can get the starting value or the ending value. You can do a lot of things using methods or functions that have been created by people. So you just have to go read all those things yourself and we can move on from there. So after this project, we are moving to object-oriented programming. Are we all good? So I'll stop sharing my screen now. So anyone with a challenge, please let me know and we can jump on that. Else we can take a 10 minutes break. When we come back, then we work. Our time is up.
Okay.
So who is going to start by taking us through? It can be a team effort. We are in this together. It can be a team effort. So one person can start, another person can chip in. You can add your control. Okay, Mohammed has shared something nice with us. Let's get it. Right. Okay. Mm. All right. Please, Mohammed, are you able to take us through this? Also, if possible, can we have you share your screen, show us the two different files you created, how you imported, how you were initializing the functions in the other file in your main file, because that's the main thing we are testing before the function understanding, the application of the different data types and concepts that we've learned. So if possible, can you share your screen and show us these so that we will follow and anybody can step in after you to also share their screen and show us what they also have. Is that cool? So I'm gonna stop sharing so that you can take over. Mohammed, over to you. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Sir Steven.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, sir. I'm trying to connect it.
Ah, sorry. Thank you.
Sir, it is visible to you.
Okay, you sent your pizza. Okay.
Sir, I always work on Jupyter Notebook, so that's why I chose it. Sir, first of all, I have uh, defined a function with the name add, and I have uh, give it argument with static args
Mhm.
and started it, sir. But I was doing it, but the time's up there, so I was trying to link it with another. As you told us that we can back, we can do it like we can link it to another program, like to import a library. So I was doing it, but the time's up. But I have defined a function for add, subtraction, multiplication, and division.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So can we go through the answers you got to see if they pay the requirements? So the first
Yeah.
So the first bit was to do an addition of all the variables. So 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. I think that's the one you have at the top. So answer A, yeah. So you can print that. Okay, thank you. And I think that should
So
give us,
14.
yes, beautiful. And the second one says to subtract C and D from the results above. So we are subtracting C and D from 14. C is 4 and D is 5. That is 9. So 14 minus 9. It should give you 5.
But it is giving me.
Yeah, 14 minus 9 will give you 5. So we can check your function, your subtraction function. Okay. What's going on? Subs 2. When you call the subtraction, you have answer, which is the 14, and you provided A, B, C, D into the function. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3. All right. Okay, so this should work. Print, um, print the value of subs 2 and 3 separately in your function. Let's see what we get.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Because this makes sense. Answer is 14. Yeah, we are subtracting subs 2 and subs 3. Oh no, just print subs 2 and subs 3. Don't add results.
Sir, I'm not getting your point. What are you saying, sir?
I'm saying print, we want to see what is stored in subs 2 and subs 3, subs index 2 and subs index 3. So yes,
Okay.
you take your code as it is, but print, okay, for sure. So you can just print, all right. Okay, says 3. Okay, so okay. It's not supposed to be 3. Yeah, that is wrong. It's supposed to be 4 and 5, not 3 and 4. So we need to, yes, CD is 4 and 5. Yeah, CD is 4 and 5. So we need to investigate this. It's not supposed to be 3 and 4. Zero. Why?
Okay.
So I have a question. Since your function is, sorry, since the task is specific to C and D, why don't you try working with only C and D? Do you get me?
I think I made a mistake.
So in your Oh, that one. When you're calling your function, right?
Yeah.
When you created
Yes,
your
sir.
when you created a function, you initiated an arbitrary argument, which is subs.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And subs is taking in every parameter you pass into it.
I follow.
If possible, can you undo to where how your code initially was, so that we can use that. I'll explain that for you. No, undo. Use undo. Return to what you shared with me, what you initially shared with me.
Sorry, sir.
Return to what you initially shared with me. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm sending back to you in the chat.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. This is what you sent. Yeah. So with this, inside subs, when you call your function, you give it answer A and S, then you give it A, you give it B, you give it C, and you give it D, right? Now, inside subs, your index 1 is answer. Sorry, your index
Yes,
0
sir.
is answer. Index 1 becomes A, index 2 becomes B, index 3 becomes C, and index 4 becomes D. Do you understand? So when
Yes, sir.
you do your subtraction, you called answer again. I don't think you should introduce answer again over here. Instead, you should initiate your index 0, since you are passing index 0 into your function.
Yes, sir.
You understand?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can do result equals subs index 0 minus subs index 3 and subs index 4.
Yes, sir.
That should give you. Oh, you can leave answer over there. Okay, let's see what you have to do. I'm sharing with you what we just discussed. I'm sharing the corrections to you. So this is the updated version of the script of your code. I just sent it to you. So yeah, exactly the same. Exactly. That's how it's supposed to be. So if you print this, it's supposed to give you 5. Good. Now, you understand the changes we made, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you too. We're working as a team. Does everybody understand what just happened? Or you have questions? If you have any question, you let me know. Then we go through it again.
Sir.
Anybody here?
Sir,
Yeah. Do you
please
have?
can you explain?
Okay.
Please can you explain the indexing for the subs, the 3 and the 4, because the variables end at 3, if I'm right.
Okay. So let's forget what he did for addition, right? Let's forget what he is showing for multiplication. Let's just look at subtraction, the subtraction function. Okay. Yes, we have a variable A, a variable B, C, and D. Okay, they are all individual elements. They are not tied to each other in any way or any form. Okay. Now, the subtraction function, he created an arbitrary argument called subs. Yeah. And as we understand from earlier on, this will trigger a tuple. Okay. Now, when he called his subtraction function, when you go to the line where he wrote ANS answer 2 equals subtraction, in there he provided answer. He provided A, B, C, and D. That is 5 elements. Do you understand? So there are 5 elements inside that tuple. Now we understand from indexing that every first element starts from a 0. Do you understand? So now it will become 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Initially, initially subs was 2 and 2 plus subs 3. That would be the third element and the fourth element. But that's not what we want. What we want is the fourth element and the fifth element. So we needed to update the index from 2 to 3 and the 3 to 4 to be able to get access to C and D, which is the parameter or the argument he provided when he was calling his subtraction. And the return value from the addition was the very first element he used in his subtraction, which is the answer. Do you understand? So that would become index 0. Does that make sense? Hello, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah, so that is what happened. So instead of 4 plus 5 being taken from the 14, we were taking 3 plus 4, which is 7 from the 14. That's why we were getting 7. So the implementation wasn't wrong, but then the implementation wasn't answering the question that was asked. Do you understand? So we move on to the next one, which is multiplication. So when you multiply 5 by, give me a second, by B, which is 3, it's supposed to give you 15. So with the understanding he got from subtraction, he made some adjustments to multiplication, and we got 20. So we are going to look at why we are getting 20. Okay. Yes, I think instead of index 3, make it index 2. 0, 1, 2. B is index 2. Exactly. Or it's still confusing. Mohammed, you get it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm getting you, sir.
Okay, so that's what happened. So
Yes, sir.
in your function, you are taking in answer, you are taking in A, B, C, D, 5 elements, 0 to 4, indexing. So it starts with 0. Your B is no longer the third position. It becomes -1, which is 2. Hey, sorry. Yeah.
Sir,
which,
is there any other way of giving answer to as argument? Is there any alternative solution for that? So
you can choose to use multiple parameters. So instead of just using your arbitrary argument, you can add a positional argument to make your life easy. So your positional argument will be taking the response or the results from the previous function, and then the arbitral argument will just have your A to D. And that one you can have 0, 1, 2, 3, and it ends over there. Do you understand?
yes, sir.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a good implementation. I actually didn't think of it like this. I didn't think of this approach. So this is smart. Thank you. Let's do the last one, division. Division will give you, so it will be 15 divided by 2. 15 divided by 2, that's 7.5. 15 divided by 2, that's 7.5. So
It was indexing issue.
also to add, yes, this is correct. Good. Now, just to add up to what has been done here, if you are going with the two-file approach where you are creating your library of calculators, your operators somewhere with your addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, and you are calling them into another file. The multiplication and the division won't work. Now, the reason why I'm saying it won't work is because you have a variable in multiplication called answer2, ANS2. And that variable is being used because you run subtraction and saved into answer. So that is your call, like the variable that was created after you called your subtraction. That line of code will be run in the new file, not in the library file. Okay, so in the library file, it would not know anywhere any variable called answer2. So it will give you an error telling you that it doesn't know what file that is. Do you understand? So
Yes.
with your current implementation, if you want to make it work all around, including using different files, instead of using answer2, you have to index the position of answer2 in your trigger, your function trigger. So instead of saying answer2, put paks index 0. Yeah. So answer2 is being passed into your function, and that is your first element. So you can index that value instead. Did you get it? So with this, when you call your function another time, you just have to pass your answer as your first element, and the script will know that, okay, my first element is being multiplied by the next element the third element that has been passed, which is the B. Okay. You do the same. Can you please do the same for the division, and we are good to go. Anybody else? So this is one implementation. Who else has another implementation for us? And if something is not clear, please let me know so that I explain it again. Are we all good? Anybody? Talk to me. Hello? Hello? You guys are too quiet. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So who is next? Or you want me to share my screen so that we will go through another version together. So aside from Mohammed, who else was able to finish their one, or even finish with one function and made use of arbitrary positional arguments and all of that? You don't need to show me your screen. You can just raise your hand if that's okay with you. Anyone? Hello? Okay, can you see my screen? So I was using Jupyter over here, but I'm going to separate it into the two files that I created here, and we'll see how it works. So all of this would go into this guy, and I will rename it to fit the name that we gave. So MATLAB. Yeah. This is how it's supposed to be. Now in here, we are going to use our MATLAB. And sorry. So that's where we are going to trigger all of the things here. Good. the first style I wrote would work all right. Is I have a Python checker that will give you an error if your coding like if the program is not efficient. So with this, if I run this, sorry, the code will work all right. So you can see that we have 14, 5, 15, 7.5 all work, but then they are just telling me that it's not efficient. That's why we are seeing all of this error message. But when you use this one, you are actually defining which of the functions in MATLAB that we want to use. So that is why I had to change it. So this is a much more efficient way of writing code. That's what they're trying to say. Because if you use the asterisk, it will load up everything for you, and you might not need everything. So when I run this again, you see that it works. So when you look over here, we have in our first file functions. Okay. We have our functions over here. We have our addition function, our subtraction function, division function, and multiplication function. We have been able to separate them, and we can reuse them however we want in our main file. We can also read and understand what is actually happening. So in here, the question says we should add up all the variables. So we call our add function, and we add all the variables in there, and we get sum. Okay. Now in subtraction, it says subtract C and D from the result above. I know that C and D is what I want, so I pass C and D into my function, and I have a keyword argument that is taking the result, which is the sum value. So if you check the code, this is what is happening. I have my arbitrary argument over here, taking in as many information that is there to provide. So in the case of Mohammed, he provided A, B, C, D. That is all the variables that was provided for us, but I provided only the question and only the numbers they were asking for, C and D. So in here, only C and D goes in there. In his case, 4 elements go in there. And the first number is just representing the results from the addition. So like the very first number that we are doing the subtraction for. And then I look through and do the subtraction accordingly. So that is what is happening in here. And then division is also having the same thing. What my divider is and what number I am using to do it. And like I'm dividing, sorry, what my number is that and what the divider is. Yeah, so yeah, so that's what the division tool is doing. And the multiplication, the number that I want to multiply and the multiplier. So when you call your function, division will do that, where I pull the results from the multiplication and I say this is the number I want to use to do the division, the 2. So I'm dividing product by A. Multiplication, I'm multiplying difference by D. So that is how I wrote my function. You can write functions in so many ways, however you want it. It's dependent on you. So you can see a perfect example here where Mohammed implemented his in a different way. He implemented his functions in a different way and we got the same result. I implemented my function in a different way and we got the same result. That is like how fun programming can be. So you can have your own style, I can have my own style. No one is wrong. As long as we get to the same result at the end, nobody is wrong. Do you get it? So this is our first Python project. I'm going to end here and hand over to ask if you have any questions. If there are no questions, Akim will step in to do object-oriented programming. So do you have any questions for me? Okay, last one. Also, you can replace all of this with this. Sum is an existing library in Python, so you can just use this. And instead of adding all of this manually or looping through, Sum will do that job for you. So if I run this line of code, you realize that I'll still get 14. So that is also another efficient way of coding. So this reduces like 5 lines to just 1 line. If you have any questions, I'm here ready to listen, and I'll explain further before I hand over. Anybody? Any question for me? Hello, any question? Hello.
I think we'll come for tutorials after the class. So nobody will talk now.
Well, which part was hard to understand?
Oh, I think we have different problems. So everybody will be contacted.
If possible, if you have your issue in mind, can you lay it out? Like, tell me right now, and maybe after the call, I can do another video to explain those ones, and I'll share it with the team. So that Hakim can do the object oriented and we don't waste any more time. Yeah, Daniel.
Somebody else will.
Yes. Talk to me.
All right. So I think with the addition wasn't a problem. But I think what I found difficult was recalling the functions for the other ones, the subtraction, multiplication, and division. Because where I got confused was subtracting the resultant from the answer. Subtracting the other, like maybe C and D from the result.
Yeah.
That's where I got confused from. So I'm actually looking at Mohammed's own, and I'm trying to catch up. But with the addition was okay for me.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. I would do a quick one with subtraction and hopefully you would understand and everyone else would understand. So
All right, please. Thank you.
I will show I'll use both scripts to explain it. All right. So you remember the explanation we gave for arbitrary arguments, especially not keyword arbitrary arguments. This example, subs.
Yes.
And you remember that when you initiate subs, everything that you pass into that function is shown as 1, 2. You understand that's correct?
Yes, please.
Okay, so with Mohammed's approach, he passes his answer from addition into that same function before he adds the variables that we are looking for into that function. Do you understand? So that is what his approach is doing. So if you look over here, he returns, if you look into this function, he returns the result he gets from the subtraction. Yeah. So when he's calling, he initiates a new variable where he will save that returned result into, and he calls the subtraction. So in the subtraction, you can see answer, which is the one from the addition in there, and you can see your A, B, C, D. So with this approach, right, when you run the function or when you run the code, Python goes into the function subtraction. It looks for subs 0, which is the first element, the answer, and it subtracts the addition of subs 3 and subs 4, which is going to be, so answer will be 0, 1 will be, A will be 1, B will be 2, 3 is C, and 4 is D. So subs 3 and subs 4. Do you get it? So now we'll get the summation of 4 and 5, which is 9, and answer being 14 still. So it will become 14 minus 9, giving you a result of 5, and that will be saved inside answer and printed over here. Is that clear?
Oh, yes. I think with your explanation, I think I get it now. I think what I wasn't doing was putting the work in the function and then calling it to give me the answer I needed. But I've gotten it now.
Yeah. And another approach is to actually separate the answer inputs from your keyword input, sorry, your non-keyword arbitrary input. So that was the one I did here. So you can see that I had my first number here, and this will be represented the answer. So maybe you can say add answer. Oh, sorry, if I do that. Okay, so that's what's happening here. So add answer, this is where you put your add answer, and this is where you put the numbers you want to do your subtraction. So when you run that, your subtraction will take the two tuples and it will take your add answer and it will execute the result accordingly. So that is the implementation we are doing. So we are just trying to apply what we've learned about functions and calling functions and using the return value. That was all that we did in this project. So it was no more, it wasn't less, it was exactly the same thing. So I think it would be easier if you do like go over the arbitrary stuff again. AW asks normal function returning a value in function, and you look at the text again, you will see that it gets easier. That is how it is. So you take your time and you should be able to figure it out. Anyone else with another
All
question?
right, thank you.
You're welcome.